And putting together this Passover dinner, there's a lot of components, aren't there?
Yes, lots of stuff, lots of steps, lots of food. And today we'll be making one of them.
And is this the first step, the second step, or?
So this is actually part of the Seder plate, which is an integral part of the Seder. And the food we're making is very prominently featured on the Seder plate.
So what would be the first food on the plate?
The first food, well, we have a few things. We have a shank bone.
A shank
they
bone?
each mean something. We have a shank bone, which we don't eat. It's just, to be there. We have the bitter herbs. And we have the Charoset, which we're going to be making now.
And each one of these things represents something, right?
They each represent something.
Like the bitter herbs, what do
the
they
bitter
represent?
herbs represent the bitter slavery that the Jews went through. And it's actually really, really bitter. You actually cry tears when you eat it.
Yeah, I mean,
if it's well done.
It's a little bitter.
Yes. Then we have the egg, which it symbolizes the Passover sacrifice. And we have the parsley, which we dip into salt water. Salt water is for the bitter tears the Jews cried during their slavery.
And what does this represent, what we're going to make here?
This is charoset. It's Hebrew for clay. And it represents the mortar and the clay the Jews were forced to produce on the Pharaoh in ancient Egypt.
To make the bricks and build the buildings.
To make the brick, they had to actually make the bricks.
Okay, let's throw it together and see how this works.
We have a smooth version here, and we have a nut-free version, because traditionally it's made with nuts, but if you're allergic, you can swap the nuts for coconut. So we have here is an apple, and we're making the chunky version now. We have a smooth version, which you just, the same ingredients, you just process in the processor. So we have an apple, we have a pear. I'm just going to quickly peel that off. We're just going to use half
This
of
is
it.
one of the items I remember at these dinners that is more popular. People really like this.
Oh, people love this. It's a type of relish. It's very sweet, and since you put it on the bitter herbs, it's delicious.
It's a great chaser for that parsley bitter salt stuff.
Yes, we eat it with matzah and lettuce and the bitter herbs.
And she's talking about matzah. Matzah is this right here, if I can pick this up. I've not seen one like this. This is round and toasted, and matzah is unleavened bread, right?
It's unleavened bread. This is actually called shmura matzah. It was protected from from the harvest, and it's round, and we use it for the Seder night.
Because I usually see like the square ones that come out of that Manischewitz box or whatever, and this looks a lot nicer.
The square ones are very popular. We use the round ones specifically for the Seder.
I like that.
And you can take that home.
Well, thank you very much.
Afterwards.
And play catch with that little rascal back and forth.
We're just going to, with my handy chopper, we're just going to chop.
I like this machine.
Here.
I got one of those for my onions that make me cry all the time.
Yes, and then we're just going to put in some pears in here.
So here's another thing I always thought was interesting about the Passover dinner. It seems to me there's a lot of wine involved.
Yes, a lot of wine. Wine is always good to have during a dinner, especially if you're with lots of family. So we drink 4 cups of wine.
So there's a book, like when you have, go ahead, you can put that together and we can talk while you do it.
Some raisins in.
So you put some raisins in with that, and there's a book, that everyone has a book, and they sort of read through it during the dinner, don't they?
Yeah, this is the book, this is the guide through the dinner. The dinner is a 15-step, family-oriented pack with tradition ritual, and this book is like the guide throughout the Seder. And the Seder plate features in it, and the book, and then throughout the book, we stopped to drink a cup of wine.
Yeah, so every other page it says stop and have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to number 4, it's a pretty good party, isn't it?
It's a great party. We break for a meal in the middle, so you have 2 cups of wine, then the meal, and then 2 more cups. And
I like the way you party.
We party great, and this is the chunky version. And it also tastes good for breakfast. You can mix it in your yogurt. You can put it on your bread or on your matzah during Passover. For the Seder, we tend to use the smooth version just because it looks more like the clay.
Okay, so Passover starts when and how long does it last?
Passover starts tomorrow night. This year it's March 30th, and it extends until April 7th. And it's an 8-day holiday, the highlight of which is the Seder, where we eat matzah, bitter herbs, we relive and retell the story of the Exodus. Because although it happened about 3,330 years ago.
About. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's actually the exact number for this year.
That's pretty good, yeah.
It applies to our lives because we can each break free of something. We each have something that we're enslaved to. So we retell the story of the Exodus of the Jewish people from Egyptian slavery to bring the message alive.
Yeah, it's a great story. Is this the holiday where you leave a glass of wine or you leave the door open?
For Elijah, we have a glass of wine. For Elijah, we leave the door open. And it's the holiday is also very focused
just in
on the
case
kids.
Elijah wants to show up, right?
And take a sip, yeah.
So that's a party.
It's a party.
I mean,
and
you're looking for another person.
Yeah, exactly. We always have, and especially us, we host Seders for the Jewish community at Case Western. So we always have students who don't go home, and we always have someone who comes in who has no place for a Seder. And the focal point of the Seder is the kids. So everything is built so they ask questions and they see all the weird stuff, interesting things that we do. The foods that we eat.
Weird and interesting. It is.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's a great culture. And what do you have for the main dish for a meal like this? Because this is sort of warming up.
So this is like almost the appetizer. This is like the salad. You know, we have the different nuts, apples, the lettuce, and then the main dish. People generally have brisket.
Yep.
You know, we don't eat any leavened grains, so no breads, no pastas, no cookies, no
And that's
pastries.
for 8 days?
For 8 days.
Okay.
So it's a lot of wholesome food, vegetables.
Hope you're
fruit.
taking notes at home because that's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. It's a very nice time spending with your family.
Thank you very much. And the explanation is very clear and very nice. And I'm glad you brought the wine.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
There's more here. You can have some.
Thank you very much.